Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Navigating Modern Dating. So, if you guys are watching on my channel, the personal channel at Chris Moffat channel, we're also streaming to this channel here in the chat. So, if you guys would not, or if you guys wouldn't mind going over subscribing to the Navigating Modern Dating channel, we're going to start doing the female POV and this show over there. And then my personal channel is going to be for the meetups, the masculinity, probably the Moffcast. And I'm thinking about, getting into some other things as we go along. I'll be doing more collabs and interviews and things like that. So if you're not subscribed over there, that would help us out a ton. We're going to stream on this channel for the next couple of weeks. And subscribe here as well. I want to get this channel monetized. We're right there. We're at like 970. So 30 more subscribers and we can start, making that sweet YouTube money. But anyway, got back to TFPOV last night, had an interesting panel and some interesting guests. But I wanted to start off with something that TC brought up. I think her name was Maya. She was talking about how she had to heal her trauma and she had to be okay with herself. Or the example she used was, I used to not think I was beautiful. And now that I'm okay with my looks, I'm okay with my boyfriend or man calling me beautiful. And you brought up a point about like women's insecurities and why that's not even a bad thing. So let's just start there. So let's flesh out that idea and like what you mean by that. We can just kind of start there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to go down with that, but women are insecure, and they're usually insecure about how they look. They're usually insecure in, will a man want me or not? Question mark type of things. And I think the reason they are is because biologically, if a man doesn't want them, evolutionarily, they would die. So obviously it behooves them to be very worried about what men think about them, and in the way that like men view women, which is basically for fertility, right? Yeah. What else you want to dive down with that?
Well, I mean, the idea that, so like the argument was like, I think for us was this guy that's like, hey, look, you're really good looking, you're beautiful, I think you're gorgeous. And she's like, no, I'm not, don't call me that. And then a guy that will find himself rolling around in the mud, he'll go back and forth and then he'll get frustrated. I think that was her point. She's like, well, if you can't accept yourself, then you're going to tell your partner that you're not beautiful. And then he's going to get mad and then you guys are going to argue. And you and I are looking at each other like, just tell her to shut up. You just don't even engage, or the guy that's going to actually entertain and roll around in the mud with you and go back and forth on some nonsense is probably not the guy that you want either way. This idea of women constantly needing reassurance. I mean, maybe that's something to talk about too. Like women needing reassurance, women or thinking they need reassurance or wanting a guy to constantly communicate. There was another woman that came on the show last night who like broke up with a dude because he got stuck at work and he couldn't make it to the date. And that was it. He could have stepped aside for 5 seconds and texted me. He could have said something X, Y, Z, ABC. But we also know that women hate men that are over communicate, that are always texting them, that are always asking them what they're doing or always checking in. So, what does that actually, where does that come from?
Well, like I said, I think it always comes from the lizard brain, right? I mean, part of it might be too, like women really want to suss a man out and make sure that he's not a dork. That comes from the lizard brain too. So it could be they're, hardwired to see if a man will be a simp when she's being stupid. Right. A lot of times what women are looking for is a no. They're not looking for you to bend. They actually want you to say no. I want to jump over to, I can't remember her name, the one that had the guy who was didn't call her, who was a state away or whatever.
Trixie. Yeah.
I want to jump onto that real quick and we can bounce back over before I forget. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to like try to smack down a woman on the ladies show, but like, why would this guy want something serious with her? Like she's a an exotic dancer and does OnlyFans. So there's no universe in which a guy's really going to care to communicate if he's going to be able to go hook up with the exotic dancer tonight or not. Like he's never going to really care about how she feels because he's never going to look for something serious with her, right? Like his interest in her is for sex, and that's it. And the only men really that are going to be interested in something serious with a woman like that are typically going to be men that those women are not attracted to at all. So she's kind of going to be stuck in that zone. And then, like, usually what happens is, women get older, they get less attractive with, like, obviously what makes a woman the most attractive is cues of fertility, which youth encompasses a bunch of those. And then she's going to be able to find even less attractive men that are interested in something serious. And that's why the birth rate's in the toilet, and 50% of women over 30 don't have children. But
Yeah,
I think that's a separate thing entirely. Like, there's no, it's like, why is this man doing this? Like, why does she want him to do something? Like, none of it really matters, because all he's interested in is sex. That's it. So that explains all of his actions and or inactions. And I think she has basically no concept that is all he's interested in.
Yeah, I thought what was really interesting there at the end, she was kind of asking our opinion. Do you guys think I overreacted and like cutting him off? And she's already going back and forth, and already this guy takes up so much mental real estate. Like all she could think about is this guy. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how in only an hour and a half, and which is so funny because the first foot we got off on was talking about emotions versus logic. And you can kind of see her trying to now use her emotions to to justify a decision, and then calling it logic, which is always super funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on last night's show. I would say this, like, we talk about the men and women being friends sort of thing. And I'll admit that there's a certain time and place, because I've always said, I kind of, maybe I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth, because I've always said, all right, well, I don't really need to have women friends. I don't need to have women friends around. There's nothing that I really like to do that women are generally interested in. I generally am not going to value, there's just certain things that I need. For the most part, I'm just going to listen to men, and I'm going to listen to guys that have gone through things or experiencing things that I have through that lens. But at the same time, I've also said, if I'm going to bring a woman into my life and I'm going to have like an LTR, or I'm going to have kids with a woman, then I also am going to promote her to this level of advisor or trusted advisor. And so I don't know, like, how do you kind of reconcile that, as far as like women being friends versus the women that are bringing in also getting to tell you, or offer you advice or feedback or on whatever situation you're facing?
The first part of it, like women being friends with men, or men that have female friends, I didn't want to blow our guy's spot on the show.
I did kind of, but I don't.
Yeah,
but
you did a bit.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I don't think it's a secret. I think the guy, like, and we've had Mike Sartain on our show. We've gone on his show. Like, he talks about it very openly. It opens doors to other women. So having female friends around, they're very honest about it, which is why I didn't really care about saying what I said, because I think if we ask Spencer straight up, it's like, why do you keep a bunch of women around? It's like, because it opens up doors to other women. They'll introduce me to their friends so that I can have fun with them. And they're really open and honest about it. They're not sitting here saying, we keep a bunch of women around because they're really fun to be around, and like we love talking to them, and hanging out with them is awesome, and we value their opinions and what they have to say. It's like, we keep them around so they'll bring their girlfriends and introduce them to us, and they'll open doors for us, even socially. Because what does every club owner and bar owner want? They want women to come. And so if you are a man who's got a bunch of women around him all the time, and they want to go out and party, see all these guys in this line waiting to get in? They're not getting in, but you're the guy that's got 10 girls around them, like, to the front of the line. So that being said, they're very open and honest about why they keep these girls around.
Yeah, and there's three types of scenarios in which it's acceptable for a man to have women around him in his life, outside of making money, of course, but I consider that like acquaintances. So as far as like a friendship goes, or like a connection outside of making money, and it's one, women that a man is banging, 2, women that a man is trying to bang, or 3, women that help a man bang women he's trying to bang. So that's it. Like there's no other acceptable thing. And I think even like men should be very careful about the energy they give to women they're trying to bang. So the second type. Now the energy you give women that are helping you get women you're trying to bang, it's usually easier to not like simp for them. But some guys fall into that trap too. They like let their guard down with the social circle of women, and they're like doing things for these women, right? That they should be doing only for women that they're having sex with. So yeah, social circle game is killer, and it's ancient, right? Like this has been going on forever. Um, and it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down to, because like women always talk about loyalty and all these rules they make for dorks, and then social circle game just kills everything.
What do you mean by that?
It's it just beats everything. Like there's nothing. Well, I guess being married is, like women want married men more than they want a guy that has a lot of hoes, but they still really want the guy that has a lot of hoes.
Yeah, you kind of brought that up last night where you were talking a little bit about a women's past, and it's like Maya, she was talking about her guy's past as if it's like, oh, it's like a funny thing that we like ha 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 and talk about. And you're like, yeah, you think his past makes him more attractive, but he doesn't think or feel the same way about your past. And they don't probably talk about that much at all either. So like that's where you're kind of going with this.
Um, yeah, I mean it's like what we're drawn to is totally opposite. Um, like a woman is afraid of dying because she doesn't have access to a man that can protect and provide for her. Like women are dependent on men and always have been for daily survival. So basically, like um, protecting them from dehydration, starvation, and exposure to the elements and natural predators. Like that's what men provide for women, and then women provide men with purpose, which is through children. So it's generational survival, and obviously, like what is if a man is risking his life to protect and provide for a woman and their children, the worst thing for him would be if they're not his children. So then he's doing it all for nothing, and he has no purpose. So that's like why men are so concerned with a woman's past, because obviously past behavior predicts future behavior. Women care about a man's past in the sense that has he done things that prove that he's a good man now, right? So like a man, if he in the past won battles, right, now he's attractive. So they're concerned with the things that prove he is the thing they're looking for in a man, and men are concerned with a woman's past in making sure like he's not going to become a cuck, that he's not going to be risking his life for nothing.
How far does that runway go? Like that reminds me of we had her on a couple of weeks ago where she was in a relationship with this dude, but she was also in a relationship with a girl. She had like a girlfriend, and he was kind of he went from this DJ guy who was running around and having girls and partying and all that kind of stuff. And now he like sits at home all day, like an architect or like some sort of desk job. But like, how far does that go? Because she still stayed with him, but even though she's stepping out and doing her own thing with another chick, I guess, because we see this is one of the more common things where women say, hey, the guy that I originally thought you were, the guy that I thought you were, the guy you were at one point, you're no longer that guy. So it's like your past, yeah, that can be that can be useful to kind of keeping her interest, but on a long enough timeline, that's going to wane.
Yeah, if you won the battles and like now you have one arm and no foot, like it's probably not going to be too attractive, because how are you going to protect and provide? Now, if you won the battles and you got injured and now you're crippled, but you have a bunch of men that submit to you and serve you, that then yeah, it's fine, right?
Hmm. So it's because it seems like this is kind of going off another tangent, because we talk a lot about how women are impressionable, and this is not like news. I mean, I think anybody that really pays attention to any social trends, any way that people like women spend money, do the shopping, everything is based on like women are drive consumer decisions. Women are spending the money, they're buying things. And so one of the things that most men one of the things that hasn't happened to men is that for the most part, and maybe this is where we can talk about this third gender stuff. For the most part, society or these other outside influences have not been able to flip the switch for most men to get them to abandon their natural proclivities, which is sleeping with women, wanting to, have children, create a legacy, that sort of thing. But it does seem like it's been the opposite effect for women. It does seem like there's a huge now, maybe majority percentage of the population of women who are now going against their natural proclivity to have a family and have children and are trying to, do the boss babe thing and be men and the feminist thing and all that. So it's like, I had a question, but I guess I'm just trying to flesh that point out where not necessarily like how does the pendulum swing back in the other direction, but is there really an argument against that? Is it really like, you know, do we need any more evidence that we've been able to convince an entire half of the population to go against all of their natural instincts that's now making them even unhappier, but they'll still fight for it. They'll still like claw tooth and nail to be able to do this. We got into the conversation last night again about how like no man is going to tell me what to wear. I'm going to dump that guy. It's like I'm going to go hang out with a dude that doesn't care about me, is not going to protect me, who does not care what my name is, who just wants to sleep with me against the wishes of a guy that would literally like take a bullet for me.
Yeah, I think I don't think we've gotten to the same point with men's driving force, which is sex, that we've gotten to with women's driving force, which is protection and provisioning. So with women's driving force, they essentially what women are looking for is a man to make sure they don't die from dehydration, starvation, exposure to the elements, or predation from predators like natural wolves and bears and stuff, right? And we've basically outsourced all of that from a man they need to submit to society and technology.
The state.
And we haven't outsourced men's desire for sex yet completely. Corn is pretty close to it, right? It's getting there, but like we don't have sex robots yet. Once we do, I think we're going to see some real problems because at least men still kind of have to go get women. Women don't have to go get men. They can go get a boss, and they can call the electrician or the plumber, right? They can go to the supermarket. They can call the police, right, when someone's pounding on their door at night. But men don't quite have that yet. But I think we're getting close, and I think corn is, it's like a preview of what that's going to look like. I think corn is similar to what feminism's effects on society looked like 60 years ago. So I think like where men are at now compared to their biological norm is where women were at like 50 or 60 years ago, where they could go do everything. But like the infrastructure, it was still a bit inconvenient for them to do so.
And so where does that leave? Where does that leave men then? Because it's like to me, it's only going to be this third gender guys, these feminine women or these men that are like women that are going to, because they're already kind of taking themselves out of the pool, or they've always been out of the pool until now, until very recently. So it's like the men that are doing it. Is that the way to restore? Like, is that further dystopian, or is that actually restoring things back to its natural order? Because I think a lot of people would think it's the former.
Yeah, I think what we've had that we haven't had for a long time is, and there's parts of the world where we don't have it, and we see that things are much different there, is we haven't had young men going off to die in the West for a very long time. So we don't have more women than men. Most places throughout all of human history had more women than men. And that's a very good thing because like it forces women to share men, and that's our biological imperative. That's how we evolved. We evolved as patriarchal, not quite like lions, but like halfway to how lions operate, right? And that's how all of our closest ancestors that are great apes operate as well, is in patriarchal structures with alpha males and sneaky fuckers, and then a bunch of women that get shared by the best males. So we have in the West, we're coming up on like 80 years without a serious culling of the men that aren't going to be able to make it. And you see places in the world where this is going on, at least in places in the world where this is going on, where the women aren't like full exodus to Western countries, where gender roles and this stuff is a lot more normal than it is in the West, because women kind of need men and there aren't enough men.
So this is going to restore order. I guess that's my question. It's like, again, is this a dystopian? Because everybody talks about, oh my God, sex robots and the men and women aren't going to need each other anymore. But to me, it's like it's going to remove those guys. Those guys are just not going to be interested. Like they're just going to basically go off and die. They're not going to reproduce because they're just going to have these robots. Like they're going to take themselves out of the game. They're not even going to need to resort to like the sneaky fucker game because they're already out. So is this more restorative or is this more dystopian?
Yeah, I think because we haven't had a culling of the least competent young men in war or famine or whatever it may be, because in a time of famine, men are going to die and not necessarily that many women, because the men are going to protect the women. And yeah, I think we see it now with, even with having a relatively similar amount of men and women in the West, the women still share the men they want. So we have all these men that just don't get sex, and like OnlyFans and corn and all of this stuff has kind of filled that gap. And I think sex robots are just gonna, if we get them, like I'd prefer all of this stuff be made illegal, corn and everything of that nature. But then at the same time, then we end up with this problem of, we have a bunch of, and everyone's testosterone getting lowered by all of the forces that are doing so. Obviously that helps as well, to kind of keep the problem at bay. But yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Like what's going to happen if we let this stuff run rampant? And then what would happen if we banned it, if we made it illegal? I sure think it would be better if we made it illegal, but then at the same time, we're going to have 30-40% of the population that, want to have sex and can't get women and now have no outlet for it.
Well, that's kind of the argument, right? I mean, there's a popular sentiment that OnlyFans and porn have saved more marriages and they're responsible for saving more marriages than they've actually ruined, because the vast majority of guys that are tapping into OnlyFans and these services are married men, like married Christian men. Not that that matters. So if that becomes illegal, then like what happens to these guys? I mean, and you could also make because I think one side of the argument is, oh, well, these guys are just going to go postal and they're going to have nowhere to get rid of this sort of impotent rage. But it's like their testosterone's in the toilet. They're not going to do anything. They're going, either they just die off and they are forever sexless and that's it, or they will raise their testosterone, or they'll do the things that they need to do to improve, get on test or whatever, adopt actually some legitimately decent and non-stupid political beliefs, but they'll figure it out or they won't. I don't think that there's like this fear that we're going to have an entire group of millions of men that we take away their toys and they're going to revolt. Like, how much should we be worried about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think like if we did ban, and the reason I'm so against corn and everything of that nature is because I think it generally hurts women, and I think it generally hurts the most vulnerable women, typically like fatherless women that are already on a fast track to absolute personal destruction. I don't really think too much about like the men's side of it, what it does to men. I think maybe a solution, and this is kind of how our how we operated back in the day was men were pushed into being masculine and being more competent. I think maybe a solution is something I've talked about with some guys in the community, changing the public school system to you graduate high school at age 16, and then you decide if you're going to start college prep, or you're going to start trade school, or you're going to enlist in the military and do 2 years of one of those. And I think that it's basically like we would have the standards for that only like actually intellectually gifted people can do the college prep. And then everyone else has to go into trades or the military. And like we could use that to only those that go into the military get to vote, right? Like you have to do 2 to 4 years of service to become a citizen and get to vote. Otherwise you stay as a resident for the rest of your life. But that happening at the same time could alleviate the issue, because the issue is basically these men aren't competent. They're not strong. They can't showcase violence. They have no fucking skills, and women aren't interested in them because of that. So yeah, I don't know what would happen if we didn't do all of that at the same time as well. If they'd retreat into video games, if they'd retreat into like AI VR stuff. I think that's actually an interesting avenue to explore with corn. Is the issue with corn is like the exploitation of fatherless women, essentially, and it totally ruins them. So if we can make very realistic corn using VR AI, does that solve that problem? And now it's like an ethical thing we can do to please the men that are never going to become, maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that's not generally the angle. Well, I guess there's two sides. I think generally when we think about this stuff, or at least when I think about this, I think about the negative aspects and how it affects men. But it's like, look, if you take it away from them, it's not like, I think that's the big fear. It's like, oh, they're going to revolt. It's like, no, they're not, because they have no testosterone. They're not going to do anything. They're going to just crawl into their hole, and they'll find some other way to mindlessly entertain themselves. They'll do something. They'll we'll go back to magazines, right? Like the ones you would find in your dad's closet when you were a kid. So it's like, definitely interesting. It's almost like it's a passive for the VR. If that's what it takes, if it's virtual reality and it's AI, and that way it's not harming actual, but then people will still argue that it's harming men. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I guess you could say that, but men have to make that choice, and no one cares, right? Let's get that straight. Like no one cares if men are disaffected by something. It's not something we've ever cared about. But I don't know if we've talked about this before, but you brought up the fatherless women aspect, and we talk about the daddy issues thing a lot. But I think what we normally talk about when we talk about daddy issues are like absent fathers, or the guy was like not really interested in being a dad. He was just like a piece of furniture. He was always working. It's not really something that he cared as much about. But I don't know if we talked on the show before about sort of the opposite, like the captain save a princess, daddy does everything for his daughter, is the hero, is the Superman, and how that also completely ruins women. There's this popular sentiment. I see this stuff on Instagram all the time. Girls will share like memes or stories, and it's, oh, I know my worth because I know how I should be treated because it's how my dad treated me, or, it's okay if you don't because my dad will. And it's absolutely crippling these women and giving them such false expectations about how a husband, or how an LTR man, or whatever you want to call him, can and should act. This girl that I saw, that I went to high school with, posted an Instagram post of her husband, and she has 2 kids with, and he's wearing like a fairy dress and sitting at a little toddler tea party table with their 2 daughters. And she's just gushing about how, oh my God, like such an amazing example, and treating my daughters and letting them know how they should be treated, and so comfortable with his masculine, blah, 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 blah. And it's like these little girls are screwed. They're completely screwed because they're getting a completely warped example of what a man and what masculinity is. And the kind of guy that's going to dress up and have a tea party with you you're not going to be attracted to him. You're going to think it's like a very weird sexual kink thing. And so that's something that I think also guys need to be wary of, is that overbearing father, a guy that's always looking to bail his daughter out, a guy that is not ready and willing to give his daughter away to you and give her to now submit to your authority, especially like if she lives in your house, if you guys are cohabitating, decision-making power is no longer his. So I don't know. What's your experience with that, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think of a vast majority, over 90%, maybe close to 98 or 99% of women in the West have daddy issues. It's just to what degree. So, in my personal experience, if a woman goes away to college and becomes like a crazy, woke chick, she's got daddy issues, right? Dad allowed this to happen. And it was not like a overnight thing, right? Like there's a lot that led up to this. And to me, it seems, all of this stuff, like I understand how guys get there. But I just don't understand how, like, I would end up there with daughters of my own, right? Like, how do you end up in this spot? Like you got to homeschool your kids, because obviously, like, your daughters are going to go to public school and they're going to be around the kids of plugged in people, and they're going to think all sorts of stupid shit. They're going to have teachers that, talk about men like they're, bumbling, useless idiots. And then, like, you have to be with women that the way you want your daughters to end up treating men needs to be how the women you have them with treat you. And I think when women grow up in that environment, like, they'll just respect masculinity. Like, I don't know how they wouldn't. They would just see it's a force for good constantly. So yeah, it's like if you send your daughters to public school and there's like weird flags in the classroom, and they accept things like that in the public school, like, of course your daughter's going to have daddy issues. Duh, you didn't protect her from these crazy people, right? So it's just the extent of the daddy issues that girls have in the West. And I'm trying to think if I've even met a woman that was actually raised by a strong masculine father in my life.
Yeah.
It's obviously, like, basically every woman I've met went through the public school system. A lot of them went to college. A lot of them moved out and got their own place, and, like, they should be at home until they're married, essentially. Very few of them were taught, like, gender roles and blue jobs and pink jobs, and also why it's a good thing, right? Like, it's not a bad thing. If I say, no, I should never change a diaper, right? I should never be bottle feeding a baby. At the same time, no man should ever have his chick changing the tire of a car, shoveling the snow, going down in the crawl space and getting covered in spiders and centipedes. Like, there are things that men should always do and that women should always do. And it's good. Like, typically women get the good end of the deal, right? Like, you go down in the crawl space and have centipedes running over you and spider webs and shit crawling on you, stuck in your hair, and she's folding laundry, right? Like, it's a much better deal for a woman. And this is just part of how men protect women from, like, the horrors of reality.
Yeah, I wonder how many guys out there just aren't interested in that kind of thing. I mean, and I wonder how much of that is societally imposed. I think there's this, you have the trope of the guy taking a picture. All right, his daughter's going to her first homecoming or her first prom. She's 16, 17, and the kid comes over and brings the corsage or whatever, and then they take a picture and he's got like his gun pointed at the kid or something like that, or some like over the top, like, oh, like if you hurt her, like, oh, you better have her by this, or I'm gonna come looking for you. And people think that's super, super over the top, but those are the kind of dads that would not let their daughters date criminals and date psychopaths and guys that are going to like mess them up. It really just like the guys that would take a back seat are, like you said, are failing to protect their daughters from the realities of the world. And it's, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's, there's a lot of guys that are just not interested in being fathers. I don't know if it has anything to do with the women they have kids with and marry. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but I don't know. I've kind of, I used to always say like, "Oh, I don't know any deadbeat dads. I only know deadbeat husbands." Basically, like a guy doesn't abandon his kids. He just abandons the woman that he has them with because he hates her. But I think in reality, I think maybe there are guys out there that are just not really interested in being dads. Like I think they're just kicking their feet up, drinking beer, that kind of whole thing. And it's that's whatever. Raising kids is women's work. Like I'm going to go to the shop and I'm going to watch my sports and I'm going to go to the bar with the boys, and that's kind of it. And maybe this sort of general apathy is part of the problem.
Yeah, we've really lost. Um, I'm trying to think about like what year the West like really
Fell.
shifted from, well, shifted from being like a primarily Christian culture. But the West for 2200, 23, 24, 2500 years was a very Christian place. And one of the like core ideas of Christian ethos is that men must die before they do what's wrong. Like they must do what's right or die trying. Right. Like to me, this is the idea of Christ's sacrifice. Right. Like he will die before he does what's wrong. And this is like what men need to do as well. So life's easy, right? Like if you don't keep your woman in line, nothing bad really happens, right? It's easier to just let a bunch of shit go than like it's not easy to do what's right. It's very hard to do what's right, especially when like difficult decisions need to be made. And it's much easier just to let shit slide, right? Just avoid the conflict. And back in the day, when men did that, it resulted in chaos, right? And now it doesn't result in as much chaos. And like back in the day, some of the one type of chaos that it would result in is if your daughter was a whore, then you could never get her out of your fucking house. No man wants to marry her. You're stuck protecting and providing for her for the rest of your life. And now she's just going to go work for some dude and pay her own bills, right? And this is like how deep I am down this fatherless or women with fathers that essentially are fatherless rabbit hole. Is the chick that goes to university, takes a bunch of debt, and is then working for some guy that doesn't give a fuck about her, and is then paying a bunch of other men that don't give a fuck about her to survive. Like that woman's father put her into this fucking meat grinder, right? That's on him. And it's just he didn't want to, he didn't want to say no. He went along with the popular opinion, the consensus, the feminist reality that we live in, and now his daughter is suffering for it, and most likely on a balance of probability she's going to end up single and childless for it. And I think like having children is what brings a woman the most satisfaction in her life, and her father is depriving her of it because it was easier to just let shit slide than to do what's right or die trying.
What about the guys? Like, because we hear this a lot too, where it's women will grow up in really conservative Christian households. They're under lock and key. They're very kept. And then they'll just turn 18, 19, 20, and then they just boom, 180 the other way. Like, what can a guy really do? Like, is it walking a tightrope to make sure you're not going too much over that? Because at what point is too much protection or too much trying to take care of your daughter like diminishing returns, or you're pushing her so far in one direction that an overcorrection is essentially inevitable?
Um, yeah, I think like everything in life, we're always right, like walking this fine line. Like everything in life has a Goldilocks zone, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the most challenging Goldilocks zones for men to figure out is how do you keep your children from becoming essentially degenerates that are going to ruin their own life without making them hate you for doing it, right? That's the fine line. Um, so I'm going to be figuring out how that goes as I start having children, and hopefully I'll be able to help some other men that come after me walk that path a little better than I'm going to have to slog through it. But yeah, how do you do it, right? And I think a big part of it is like your relationship with their mother, right?
Hmm.
And then also like what you push them towards.
Yeah, the
Um,
last part.
I think you can't really have conversations with children. I mean, it's really hard to even have conversations with women about the objective nature of reality. I think it's also impossible to have conversations with children about that. Like you to try to tell your child that you shouldn't do these things because 20 years from now you're going to be in a place that you don't want to be. They're not going to really understand that too much. So I think you need to lean into like the emotional side of it a bit more, the subjectivity rather than the objectivity of it with your children. And that's how children get brainwashed in the opposite direction, like the direction that's opposite of our biology, right? Towards like this woke shit is like those people don't talk about objective reality. Those people live in the land of emotions, right? They live in the land of emotions and manipulation, and I think this is an important trait for fathers to have, right? Like you can't have a logical conversation with your children about the type of people that, oh, why can't I be friends with Johnny? Well, Johnny's dad is fucking drunk. I mean, the child's not really going to understand this, but I think there's other conversations you can have about it, like, oh, Johnny's dad is dangerous. He might hurt you, which is actually factual.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to do that in a way that's not going to like scar them. Also, right? You don't want to ruin their childhood wonder. Um, so I think that's the fine line, right? Figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, I think even thinking what you're saying is pushing them towards things that are going to be objective. See, that's you said subjectively, and I was leaning more towards the objective, where it's like pushing them towards things that are objectively good for them and that objectively make them feel fulfilled and good. Like pushing your sons towards athleticism and sports and hard work and honor, integrity, and doing things that are going to be positive for them. They don't necessarily have to know, like, hey, this is going to be beneficial to you in 20 years. But it's like, hey, when you work hard, in a couple, you're going to feel good after it. Or it's even setting a good example. Like, I think that's also so much of it, right? If they watch you do something, they're just going to say, well, the person I look up to most in this world is doing this. So that must mean that that's a good thing. And then that is a example for me to follow. I mean, because like there's still things that I wish my parents pushed me into. Like I wish my parents wouldn't let me have gotten off the hook so easy when it came to spending all my summers after like playing video games or not training hard or eating right or learn or finishing like boy scouts and shit like that or whatever it might be. Some of those things I look back on and say, man, you know what, if I had whatever it might be, music, athletics, if my parents had pushed me into it a little more, it would have really benefited me in a ways that would have helped out. And but at the same time, like who knows if I would have been receptive, and who knows if I would have overcorrected the other way. So I think it's also really what's interesting, I think, about it and like raising kids in 2026 and even beyond is that we can only go. I think people are generally doing their best. And I think we have so much information. We have so many different things that we're in tune to now as far as like raising kids and the realities and the objective reality of the world and what works and what doesn't. But at the same time, we even seem to be reverting back to these old trad con sort of things that were around 50 years ago anyway. So it's almost this time as a flat circle thing. And maybe it's just natural rebellion. A buddy of a mutual friend of ours in the community, we were talking about how like mullets and like mustaches and big dumb looking glasses, like stuff that was really popular in like fanny packs, cut out jean shorts, all of that stuff is now cool again. When we were going like, this is dumb because that's what our parents would kind of wear. Like it's what our parents were doing. And now like coolness skips a generation. Like your parents, not cool. Grandparents, super cool. So our kids are going to think we're dumb and what we think is cool is not cool. But then when we have grandkids, they're going to be, thinking that everything that we did was. So I don't know. I wonder how much of that is inevitable versus how much of that is this tightrope we have to walk. But yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have a bit of an interesting situation with like a lot of the counterculture and rebelling, like in whatever you want to call it, modern history, was towards things that feel good and are fun, right? It was like towards the fun thing that, the adults didn't want us to do, right?
Like
But
listen to rock
now,
music.
yeah, now what's really interesting, this is why I think this, whatever is going on now, if it is even going on at all, is going to fizzle out and die. Now the counterculture is something that is really hard to do, right? Like the counterculture, if it's going to go back to trad stuff and gender roles and men doing hard shit, and women being submissive, like these are difficult things to do. And are the young people really gonna like put their nose down and do these difficult things, or are they gonna dip their toe in the water and be like, well, that was fun for a year, but actually I want to just go on vacations and not have all these fucking chickens I got to scoop their shit 3 times a week.
Yeah, everybody loves the whole idea of the homestead thing. It's just how romanticized everything's become with Instagram and like this highlight reel thing. It's like, no, this stuff is like 99% shit. It sucks most of the time. Like you're seeing legitimately like the highlight reels. So yeah, that's don't have kids soon, hopefully. One day. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I've got some out there that I don't know of. I know that you're well on the way to getting on board that train. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a scary thing because I think it's just you're all. I mean, we said it before. It's like the idea of getting a dog to like test it out. It's like no, like you just have kids and you figure it out. You just do it and you do the absolute best you can. But I think this is where we kind of come full circle and we talk about the importance of having a community and the importance of having people around you that are on the same page, that you can raise your children alongside their children. You can homeschool them alongside another. You don't have to depend on the public school system. Like Michael Malice made a really good point on Twitter X the other week where he said the public school system is the only place where you have to be around people that you don't want to be around and you have to be around people you don't like. It's the only like if you work at a place where you don't like the people, you can quit. If you live in a neighborhood where you don't like them, you can move. It's only there, like going to school, where you have to be around people that probably don't like you and maybe want to kill you on a daily basis for 13 straight years. And then, if you make it out, good on you. But I mean, my goodness, man, even as a product of this public school system myself, I can't imagine going through that stuff now and going through that stuff today.
Yeah, public school is totally fucked. It's over 70% of high school graduates read below a ninth grade level in the United
Wow.
States. It might be over 60%, not 70%, but it's a lot. And this is with like 8 hours a day for 12, 13 years, right? I know people that homeschool their children and they have 10, 11, 12-year olds that are reading at a 12th grade level. And they spend like 3 hours a
Right.
day
No time.
max. And that's on everything. That's
Yeah.
everything.
And then
right?
they go
It's 3
play
hours
and they
of
go
like
like
instruction.
exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, and they go like their sons go build shit, their daughters go learn how to cook, they like get into something they're into, like, girls go do dance, boys go do MMA, they take care of animals, grow food, all this kind of stuff. It's like that just shows you how bad the public school system is that in like 3 hours a day or less of what would basically be considered like classroom instruction and homework, you can produce a better result by age 11 than 8 hours a day does by age 18. So it's just Unbelievable. Now there's some interesting private schools and what you would consider like homeschool groups that are like functionally private schools. But with all of that stuff too, it's you got to find some people that are like-minded, because and this is the other thing with homeschooling is that like your children are the same as adults, where they're going to become the sum of the five people they spend the most time with. They're going to adopt the values of the people that are around them. And most kids spend more time at school than they do with their parents. So
Yeah.
how in the hell are they going to adopt their parents' values? There's no chance. Um, so yeah, if you're doing like a private homeschooling group type thing, you've got to make sure like the people that are running it and also the other families in it are very close to what your values are, especially on the really important stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest fear a lot of people have is like the whole socialization aspect. They're not going to be around other kids, around other people, but it's like every kid now is in so many extracurriculars or sports. There's all this stuff. Like you said, there's all of these things they can get. And you can socialize your kids. You just talk to them like people. And if anything, the kids they're going to be around are going to be the ones that are socially stunted, not your kids. Your kids are going to be the well-adjusted ones. The ill-adjusted kids are going to be the ones that can't read or that have iPad brain, that don't know how to talk to people or look people in the eye or say yes or no, sir, or have any sort of manner. So I think it's such a misplaced fear. I think it's a fear like with parents. I think parents are afraid, it's like, oh, well, my kid's going to be the weird one. It's like your kid's going to be weird if you're weird and you don't know how to raise a kid. You don't know how to teach them how to be a well-adjusted person. It just seems like they want to outsource and offload socializing their kid to the system, to the state, which is bananas insane. Really, like these are the people that you want teaching your children how to be a person and how what ideas to have and what to believe about the world and what the truth is. It is really, not to mention, not even just the curriculum, but everything about it. Sitting them in uncomfortable desks for 8 hours a day, raising your hand, just having to pay it, like just stare at a overhead projectors and whiteboards and whatever the hell they're using now, or at these screens that are just frying their neurons, and then expect them to come home and they wonder why their kids don't want to talk, like don't want, like, what'd you learn in school today? Nothing. Yeah, because they were on autopilot for 8 straight hours and they're literally one-shotted by the public school system. It's just it's a wonder. Um and you wonder why this the generate I guess it's, I don't know if it's Gen Z or Alpha or whatever, the most recent generation is the first one in recorded human history that's actually gone backwards cognitively. So it's just one of those things where I think it's going to continue to get worse until it gets better. It's how much worse is it going to get, and what the turning point is actually going to be. And that's, I think, with society as a whole.
Yeah, I think we have a big bias with homeschooled kids and their social calibration, because like our generation, a lot of the homeschooled kids, what it looked like was one or two kids. Like I had one that was on my street growing up, and they were super
I only
weird.
knew one guy my whole, and like, yeah, I only knew one kid, and he was a bit out there.
Well, so what it was with the homeschool family that was on my and they ended up going to high school, and that's when I learned that they were super weird. And what the homeschooling basically was dad went to go work his job, and the kids stayed at home. It was a boy who I think was 2 years older than the girl. And they stayed at home, and mom did homeschooling, whatever that is, for 8 hours.
Ugh,
And
yeah.
like that's it. Right. So of course, if the kid's only interaction is with their one sibling and mom and like textbooks and a curriculum, of course they're going to be weird. And this is one of the issues with like modernity, right? Like we need big families, we need communities. Like this is how kids get socialized. And so, yeah, if you have three kids and you're homeschooling them and you're in the middle of fucking nowhere, like there's going to be problems. You got to have them multiple days a week with other kids, hopefully that are close in age to them. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find people where I'm bouncing around living, and once I find my final resting point for my family. So that's why I'm going to have children with multiple women. So ideally, I have 7, 8, 9, 10 kids in the house, and there's more than one adult too. It's not just mom. It's mom and auntie, and that's there's like 10 people here, right? So even if we interact with no other people, there's at least 10 different perspectives and people that communicate in different ways and all this kind of stuff, right?
It always comes back full circle. Yeah. Interesting stuff. That's all I got for tonight. Anything you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Yeah. So as we, I don't know how much you've talked about on the channel about the new stuff you're working on and all that.
Not really at all, actually.
But yeah, I just wanted to talk briefly about our meetup that we had with the coaching group. So for those that don't know, we took 7 guys into a coaching program, 7 guys in the community ecosystem, and we attacked it from dating, brotherhood, physique, mindset, status, social circle, Instagram. We attacked it with me, Spencer, and one of our fitness coaches in the community from all of these angles. And we got testimonials from the guys at the meetup that concluded it, and is pretty outstanding. Like, we had guys that went from, they had 1 date in 2 years that flaked, to sleeping with 2 chicks with the same name within 2 hours and having 5 plates spinning at once. We had a guy that would get 1 match like a day on dating apps, fix his photography, fix his physique a bit, recreate his profiles, got 139 likes the first day he made his new profile. We had a guy that was in a monogamous relationship that opened it up and is now his chick does his apps for him and finds women, invites them over, and they have threesomes. And, now he's going down kind of my route with them. God, what are the other wins that we had? We've got guys that are going out, like inviting 5 women out to events they're going to with just him. Shows up, 5 women show up, and then, he goes home with the one he wants the most. So just extraordinary wins. And, we're going to recreate this essentially in the near future. So this is coming up soon. And it's just a testament to doing the work. Like, so many guys think, life sucks and feminism and women aren't shit and all this stuff. And like, that's kind of true. But at the same time, men are in a really bad spot right now as a whole. So it's never been easier to live the life you want. You just need to get pushed in that direction and do the work. So more to come on that. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see some of the testimonials there as I kind of pivot my coaching from in the community to branching out a bit and taking some clients. I don't love taking public clients because, like, I can help a guy totally unfuck his life if he's able to get women with guidance. But a guy that like cannot get women at all, like, needs to start somewhere else. You got to start at square one. And that's kind of what this program was for the guys who, like, everything was out of whack. And I couldn't do anything. Like, I can't do anything with a guy that's unable to get laid. Right. So that's kind of what the multi-prong approach was for.
Yeah.
And it worked phenomenally well.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, I was super impressed with the results that you guys got. I mean, and for people that are listening to this, I had no part in this at all. Like, I kind of was there for resources and guidance, but these 3 guys, our fitness coach and then Spence and TC, they crushed it. I saw the results and I met up with some of the guys. I was coming back from Nashville on Saturday and I stopped by for like an hour or so. And these guys were doing MMA. These guys, lost a bunch of weight. You had guys that were afraid to talk to women, and like you said, they were just saying now they're like, she doesn't like what I'm putting down, then whatever. I've got another one right behind her. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next iteration of it, and I think it's been really great. You guys definitely have something, as long as guys are willing to commit to it. And that's the thing. It's a high ticket item, but I think for the results that a lot of these guys got, I think they probably would have paid double. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. Definitely follow on Instagram as TC starts to kind of unveil his new brand and sort of this new platform. I'm kind of doing something similar. So I'll put this in the chat really quick. This was a result of some really thinking like long and hard about what I kind of wanted to do next and how much I love to train and how much I'm all about to do the work and being the do hard shit guy. And I'm not moving away from, I'm going to continue to do this sort of content. We're going to continue to do the dating stuff on this channel. But the reason I kind of separated the channels is I wanted to kind of go in a different direction as far as brand goes, or spin up this kind of new thing. Like the Brotherhood still exists. Those guys, inner circle guys, we talk about, the wins, the losses, all of the unplugged stuff. But I've got this new community, and then you can follow on Instagram as well. It's just the Do Hard Shit Club. Essentially, it's just going to be focused on, and guess what? It's for men and women. So it's not just for men only, even though I think mostly guys are going to gravitate towards it. But it's just going to be a place where people can come in and hold each other accountable. It's going to be a community of people that actually want to go lift, run, train, do all of these things, do the hard things physically and mentally. And it's really just going to focus on the putting yourself in situations that are going to make you better. Like the modern world, making people soft, modern comforts are people keeping people fat and lazy. And what that does is that makes people generally very ill-equipped to handle the problems that life throws at them. Yeah, we have modern comforts and we have the internet and we have, ways of staying comfort. And that also causes us to put our blinders on a bit and sort of not take seriously actual threats that are around the corner and life's curveballs that do come. So if you are in a spot where you are physically able to show up for your people, you're mentally able to show up for your people and yourself, we're all better for it. So school community, it is like $39 a month. It's just getting started. We've got about 10 or 11 members that have already joined, and I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff there on that Instagram. And you're going to have access to the same type of meetups that I put on with the Brotherhood. So if you've seen the things that we want to do, if you want to look into the Algonquin trip, if you want to do the San Diego Valor Immersion Project where we train with Marines and Navy SEALs, if you want to be able to come to our Tampa MMA events and learn how to fight, learn how to protect yourself, go down to Full Spectrum Warrior and learn how to train in clear rooms. And so keep an eye out. There's a lot more content's going to be coming down the hopper, and some fun stuff too as well. But I'm really proud of the progress that like Spence and TC and these guys have all helped them make, and they did it all their own. So they went from being guys that kind of joined a group and community looking for connection and guidance to actually running their own thing. And that's really been awesome to see. So go follow that page. I'll put it on Instagram. It's really, like I said, it's just at the Do Hard Shit Club. And I'm looking to kind of like build a brand. So I've got big ideas for it, big plans for it. I've already got guys that are asking for t-shirts and I want to put it on like coffee mugs and stuff, which is super cool. So we appreciate the support. If you guys would go follow TC on Instagram, support us, everything we do. And we got big plans for this channel, big plans for all of this content now that we're fully on our own. And I think we have a real North Star and a path forward, which is, I think, the thing I've been struggling with the most over the last 6 months is trying to figure out exactly what we're doing and why. And I think we figure that out. So, and also like stay tuned for more short form content, be doing some videos, hopefully, but got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff in the hopper. So if you guys go follow that page and, if you're interested in joining that school group, feel free to do so. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap, and we'll see you guys back on next Monday for the Female POV. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the Navigating Modern Dating channel. Eventually, we're going to be just streaming on that. So get over there now, subscribe to it so you don't miss anything. Same thing with this one. And then if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, it'd be great if you did, because there's going to be a lot of great content coming out and also help support us as we monetize this thing. So, yep, like I said, we're going to wrap there, and we will see you guys next week.